kick the competition's butt on this.
So come get behind the wheel and experience the new Ford lineup for yourself.
Awesome. I want to do it again and again and again.
My opinion of Ford has dramatically changed.
Hurry to your local Ford dealer for the EcoBoost Challenge sales event going on now. That's selling based on 2014 calendar year sales.
The more you learn about your insurance coverage, the more gaps you might find. Like how you thought you were covered for this.
Check out my new addition.
Wow, I love this new master bedroom.
When you're really only covered for this.
Check out my new addition.
Wow, a Murphy bed.
Now you see it. Now you don't.
Or how you may be covered if you drive your car into a pool.
That pool came out of nowhere.
But not if you drive a carpool. Talk to a farmer's agent about what gaps might be hiding in your insurance.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
A Baptist minister in Chicago calls on leaders to get together to prevent street violence and not wait for something terrible to happen. The story from Veronica Carter of CBS station WBBM.
Reverend Paul Jenks says too many people, many of them children, are dying on Chicago streets, and the people who live in the neighborhoods don't know what else to do. He's worried they'll become vigilantes.
What we're trying to do is to keep that spirit, especially this summer, from entering into our community where people are starting to think that they have to handle it themselves.
Public policy consultant Amara Enya says they don't want riots and protests to happen here like they have in Ferguson, Missouri, and Baltimore.
There's a spark that ignites some sort of action in those cities, but we want to be proactive and get out in front of it.
Some discouraging crime stats this holiday weekend. Since Friday evening, Chicago street shootings have killed 9 people, and in Baltimore, 9 murders since Friday night. Dan Raviv, CBS News.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world. You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nooganomics with David Toulis.
What is a local economy argument for foreign wars, or should we say perhaps against foreign interventions? What is the local economy argument in hearing the news about Ireland and its vote last week to become a gay republic, to allow recognition in Irish law that accepts two dudes marrying as husband and husband, or husband and wife, or wife and wife, or 2 women uniting in holy matrimony, as if they were a husband and wife, a lawful husband and wife, being given the same recognition in Irish law as marriage has been from the beginning, from the time of Adam and Eve, about, 8,000 years ago, depending on how accurate Bishop Ussher's calculations are back in the 1600s. What is a local economy argument for marriage? And what is the local economy argument about Memorial Day? How do we understand Memorial Day when it is a day off? I just got off the phone with my partner here at the radio station, and he said, well, I'm not going to be in today, and there's no way you can do regular business today at Hot News Talk Radio, 1240 a.m. It's the day off, right? And it's I used to not like holidays because I couldn't make any sales on those days, but now I've come to accept that, it is a day off, and I'm going to be with friends and family, and I'm not going to be trying to make a profit. Well, it's a special day for a lot of people, and if you are one of those who are off today and doing something a little different, I really appreciate your tuning in, giving me a few minutes of your time. My name is David Toulis. Our show is Nooganomics.com. We're here every weekday from 1 to 3, and Hot News Talk Radio streams live on your laptop or your desktop at hotnewstalkradio.com. On your smartphone, if that is your preferred content delivery system, we're there as well, and you can see whether my bow tie today is crinkly or good. It's usually one of the two, usually the first. And my guest, and we try to always have a small business person to give us, to help us scope out the future, because I do think as we face national disaster, particularly in the economic sector, we are wise to meet small business people to see how they've done it. How have they found prosperity, or if not actual prosperity, the prospect of it, because starting a small business is very, very demanding of time and capital, and you see a lot of red, right? You see sometimes years of time and effort before there is any profit to report. Well, we have the idea that if we love our neighbor and buy local, we will be better off, and that's my argument here at Nuganomics.com. And we're told an important lie by the national sector, by the national economy, and that is that far is better than near, that big is better than small, that complex is better than simple. And in the footnotes, they'll tell you that corporate is better than personal, and that abstract is better than physical. And yet, oddly enough, I just have the Minority Report on each one of those 5 points, or those 3 points in the 2 footnotes. I have the Minority Report. And it strikes me that if we have the perspective that near is better than far, that small than big, and simple than complex, and if we put on our reading glasses and check down in the details there, personal is better than corporate, and physical than abstract, we are going to be more profitable in the future. And we'll be able to make sense of things that we can't ordinarily understand if we follow the traditional dichotomies of left and right, liberal and conservative, Republican and Democrat. Some of the traditional distinctions are not going to make any sense. Well, on the question of the Irish voted in I think the reports I read were Saturday's New York Times. I think the vote may have been Saturday there, or maybe Friday, but the vote was very much in favor of gay marriage, and I think it was 62% were in favor of changing the Constitution to allow gay and lesbian couples to marry, and it was a very large percentage of the people who were eligible to vote did so. 3.2 million of them, that's 60%. The Iona Institute, which was opposed to the campaign, said, we will continue to affirm the importance of the biological ties of father and of fatherhood and motherhood, and it urged the government to address the concerns voters on the no side have about the implications for freedom of religion and freedom of conscience. And that it's an important footnote. That's really about the only comment in that story from the BBC about the opposition and what it stood for, right? You have page after page of story, and the only real interest in why the no people said no is given in a sentence or two, and their concern is for the rainbow jihad. The rainbow jihad that will march forward upon the idea of legal buggery, legal anal sex, which is not just, anal sex is not just legal between Jim and Joe now. It is a constitutional right. It's something that they can do. Well, they can't do it in public, but they can certainly get close to that. Today, Ireland made history. Prime Minister Enda Kenny said, according to the New York Times story, at a news conference, in the privacy of the ballot box, the people made a public statement. This decision makes every citizen equal, and I believe it will strengthen the institution of marriage. This is, of course, it is a commonplace to think that if you expand the definition of marriage, you're not deconstructing it, you're not destroying it, you're not ruining it, you are improving it by adding another flavor, right? It's another benefit. Another group of people can have the benefit of marriage. And is not marriage good for society? Do you not agree that marriage is important? That we need to have people who are committed in love to each other, without distinction as to their sex. That's what that phrase is. What will be added in the Constitution regarding civil marriage. Civil marriage, of course, is marriage recognized by the state. Though the Times says that is a formality. There was a ratification process ahead in Ireland where both houses of the Parliament and the President have to agree, but it's called a formality. And the date when gay and lesbian couples, of course, that's redundant, gay and lesbian couples can marry will be determined in that process. Ireland's paradigm shift from a quasi-theocracy, notice the language, a quasi-theocracy to a leader on gay rights was the result of a sustained campaign by gay activists. The New York Times says they set up a network of support groups around the country, infused a grassroots movement with aggressive social media outreach and a registration drive that brought in 100,000 new voters since November, and tens of thousands of doors were tapped, and leaflets were left everywhere, and posters were ubiquitous. There's a gay backer says commentators just don't seem to have grasped that this has been the culmination of a 10-year campaign to change attitudes in this country. Now, of course, now that the people have changed their attitude with a campaign, and now the question is, can other people's attitudes be changed by a campaign as well, or must people's attitudes be changed by force? And that's why the idea of a gay jihad, poofter jihad, is so real. And we have to understand what the prospect of that brings here in Chattanooga, here in Hamilton County, if the High Court, with Chief Justice Kennedy as a swing vote, intends or votes to deconstruct marriage, in other words, to impose itself in an area in which it has no jurisdiction, say that two men have a right to marry, and offer that as the constitutional standard for ostensibly, right? It's only ostensibly for all the states. Well, how is it that we have this idea that a pro-gay marriage in Ireland is a good thing, right? Gays accept the referendum results. Gays accept the idea that the people voted in Ireland, and 62% of them favor gay marriage. Well, they accept the results, right? They accept. I'm going to belabor a point here. They accept the results. Well, why not understand that gays need to accept the results here in Tennessee? Did not Tennessee have a referendum in which the public had its say, right? The public declared that marriage is between one man and one woman only. And it was in Tennessee for the Marriage Protection Amendment, also known as the Tennessee Amendment 1 of 2006, that in the Constitution denies the state authority to recognize any marriage except a real one, right? Any marriage. And what percentage of the people do you suppose favored that? Was it a close race? Well, no. 81% favored marriage. And that was 1.4 million people voted yes on this constitutional amendment, and 327,000 voted no. So that's about 18%. And our Constitution in Tennessee says that marriage, that any policy or law or judicial interpretation purporting to define marriage as anything other than the historical institution and legal contract between one man and one woman is contrary to the public policy of the state and shall be void and unenforceable in Tennessee. Do you notice that there's a bit of vigor there? There's a bit of masculine strength. You might say there's a testosteronal component to this amendment to the Constitution. Any judicial interpretation purporting to define marriage as between Jim and Joe, right, is without effect and is against is unenforceable and contrary to the public policy of the state. So if we have that amendment, how can anyone, from Governor Haslam to the Speaker of the House to your local representative or senator, say anything other than the following? A high court opinion declaring marriage between Jim and Joe constitutional has no effect here. We are effectively saying we're laying down a challenge to the national power in this amendment to the Constitution. And why are gays not satisfied with that? Why did Tanco v. Haslam have to go forward? Why not accept that here the result was in favor of marriage? Why is it that gays are not satisfied with a democratically enunciated view of this important thing? Well, they're not about democratic interests. You have to understand that the gay theory, the gay onslaught, the gay jihad, the rainbow jihad is not about the democratic process. It will use the democratic process where suitable, but if local economy in Chattanooga and Hamilton County opposes any revision of the theory of marriage, well, it's going to have to be just overturned. It's going to have to be done effectively by force. And the force to which the gay theory, the gay lobbyists, the lugbutts have appealed to is, of course, the courts. The question, though, is if we think about it, what mechanism of enforcement does the High Court have? What mechanism of enforcement does the Supreme Court in Washington have here in Hamilton County? How could it force Bill Knowles, a Christian man, a man who knows his constitutional duty, a man who swore to uphold the Tennessee Constitution and the U.S. Constitution? What authority does it have to force him? What means does it have to enforce him to grant a marriage license between Jim and Joe, or between Marie and Leslie? Well, none. And I'm sure the lug butt lobby and the ACLU attorneys who are brought in will shriek at this recalcitrance, this intransigence, this hateful act of saying, well, no, I'm county clerk here, and I have taken oath to uphold the Constitution. And the moment the High Court issued its ruling, I downloaded a PDF, and I went quickly to my law book and see if the words had changed. They were still there. As long as they're there, I'm not absolved of my oath of office, and I'm going to be. I have no qualms about saying the following, but I'm going to uphold that oath of office, and I'm going to defend marriage in our state, and defend prosperity in our state. Well, my name is David Toulis, and another party, not just county clerks in Tennessee uphold marriage and defend prosperity, but others do as well. One that I want to bring your attention to is Automax. It's an unpretentious little car lot just east of Central High School on Highway 58. You might think that it's not much of a business, but actually, because it's so unpretentious and even a little hard to notice there on the left, you are making a mistake. In fact, because it has such low expenses and such low overhead, you're going to be able to get a used car at Automax for half the price. Well, I'm not going to say for, but let's say $2,000 less, maybe even $3,000 less, then you can get this more or less the same vehicle at another used car lot. Just talk with Louis. He has no staff. He does all the work himself. He does the washing of the cars, organizes the repair, and sometimes Melanie, his wife, helps out. And so baked into his business plan as a small entrepreneur is your advantage. And we just want you to know that we are there wanting you to buy your next car from Automax. Call Louis, ask for Louis, and his number is 643-2886. That's 643-2886. Or even better, just drive by. Go out Highway 58, past the big high school on the right, and there you'll see him on the left. Also, if you're thinking about prosperity, make note of our theory here at Nuganomics.com. Nuganomics.com is a website of which I'm the mild-mannered editor, very mild-mannered, with newsprint ink, formerly staining his fingertips, as I was for many years an editor at the Chattanooga Time-Free Press, handled the business section since the time the Chattanooga Times and the old News Free Press merged. And then I left a few years ago to take up writing, and that's what I am. I'm a writer. And I'm interested in prosperity, and I've got my own business plan. I've got my own plan here at a radio station to prosper you, my listener, and of course my customers and my investors. But if you don't have a plan for your own business, you need to call Bruce Krebs. Bruce Krebs runs Entrepreneur Source, and he will get you into a franchise that's suitable to your background, your interests, your capital availability, whether your wife can help you in the business. Maybe it's her business, right? And whether it's usually in the service line. Suitable to our situation here in Chattanooga and the Chattanooga area. Bruce Krebs, Entrepreneur Source, 857-5621. That's, I'm sorry, I gave the wrong number. It's 875-5621. Write that down, 875-5621. Bruce Krebs. Call him. My name is David Toulis, and we're at Hot News Talk Radio, 1240 AM. And so the question about the whole marriage question is, if the popular vote is acceptable to gays in one case, well, why not in 30 cases? Because Tennessee is one of 30 states that passed an amendment to the Constitution, declaring that marriage is between one man and one woman. Why cannot a plebiscite in Tennessee be of equal value to these American gays? Right? Don't they think that American people are sound in their thinking? And will gays not bow to the will of people in the various states who have decided this by vote? No, they're not very democratic, and that's why it's fair to to refer to the coming debacle. If the High Court rules against marriage, it is going to be in many ways a debacle, a disaster. The Archbishop of the Church in Ireland, Archbishop of Dublin, Darmweed Martin, said the church in Ireland needs to reconnect with young people. He said, we, the church, have to stop and have a reality check, not to move into denial of the realities. We won't begin again with a sense of renewal, with a sense of denial. And what we have to understand is that the Christian church is, in many ways, is responsible for what's happened in this country and in Ireland. What has been the argument for marriage, and what has been the duty of the church? Has the church in that country lost its salt and lost its savor? Well, very, very likely. The purpose of the church is not to get along with people. The purpose of the church is to guide people based on the scriptures to acting right and to being prosperous. And of course, that comes only when you fear God and love God. There's a description of what the job of the church is in the Westminster Confession of Faith, which is one of the main Protestant summations of Christendom. It says, unto this Catholic visible church, Christ hath given the ministry, oracles, and ordinances of God for the gathering and perfecting of the saints in this life, to the end of the world, and doth by his own presence and spirit, according to his promise, make them effectual thereunto. And the job of Christendom is not to just get along with unregenerate men who are celebrating the rites of buggery and other things. There is a purpose of the moral law, and the moral law, it should be saying, is of use to all men, to inform them of the holy nature and will of God, and of their duty, binding them to walk accordingly, to convince them of their disability to keep it, and of the sinful pollution of their nature, hearts, and lives, to humble them in the sense of their sin and misery, and thereby help them to a clearer sight of the need they have of Christ and of the perfection of his obedience. And the church of Christianity in Ireland and in Chattanooga has a duty to make use of this law, right? Which is the thing that God gives, which is the guide for men's lives, but it also condemns all aberrations from it. The moral law is of use to unregenerate men to awaken their consciences, to flee from wrath to come, and to drive them to Christ, the Westminster divines say, or upon their continuance in the estate and way of sin, to leave them inexcusable and under the curse thereof. You see, the idea of a church is that it presents two things: promises and curses. It presents curses to unrepentant sodomites, but then it offers grace and forgiveness to those who realize that they're fallen away from God's law and God's word. It's a religious conflict. This is David Toulis.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
If you have the DT, the shakes, because your phone is on the fritz, you have nomophobia. You need help. Your telecom doctor is in. Cell Surgeon at Northgate Mall. Cell Surgeon yanks open the ribcage of your phone, pries out the dead heart, and puts in the beating life that you lead on your cell phone. Broken screen, phone not charging, water damage, battery given out? Cell Surgeon in Northgate Mall next Old Chicago Pizza. Check us out on Facebook. Open Sunday. Cell Surgeon. We bring your phone back to life. We've got a table here at Delia's in Saudi Daisy, ready to delight in a plate of authentic Mexican food. Delia's spreads a rich selection: loaded nachos, crazy chicken, homemade tamales, maybe the enchiladas with beef, chicken, pork, quesadillas. Every dish beautifully pictured on the menu to help us decide. Join us for lunch or dinner. We're at Delia's in Saudi Daisy on Dayton Pike near the Thrasher Light. Here's dinner. Delia's uses the freshest ingredients, cooked to perfection. Nachos, homemade. Delia's open every day except the Lord's Day. For lunch and dinner, treat yourself to Delia's genuine Mexican food. In Saudi, call 521-7145. That's 521-7145.
Are you tired of working in corporate America, or have you recently lost your job and would like to consider owning your own business? If you are, please call me, as I can help you look at franchises or business opportunities that fit you, the economy that we're in, and the type of businesses that are right in the greater Chattanooga area. After I help my clients find the right opportunity, I also help them find the best way to finance the business, including paying yourself through the startup phase. If you would like to learn more about opportunities that may be right for you, please call me for a free assessment. My name is Bruce Krebs at the Entrepreneur Source. Phone number is 423-875-5621.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
You do not have to be living with constant pain. You need to make the choice today to enjoy a revitalized body. You deserve to live a better pain-free life. And Dr. Ross can help. At Ross Chiropractic, failure is not an option. For over 40 years, Dr. Ross, a graduate of the prestigious Palmer College of Chiropractic, prided himself in helping and healing. The Ross method of chiropractic care is unique in developing a treatment designed just for you. And Ross Chiropractic makes this promise to you. If he believes that he can't help relieve your pain, he will guide you to another health practitioner to assist you. Feel better now. You owe it to yourself. You really do. Call Dr. Ross now at 954-9591. That's 954-9591. And visit Dr. Ross at 7405 Shallowford Road, Suite 320. Ross Chiropractic, helping your body heal itself. Because when your spine's in line, you will feel fine. Call 954-9591. That's 954-9591 for Ross Chiropractic.
Do you feel better outside your home or business than in? Indoor air quality is important. Mildew, mold, smoke, water, and rodent damage are prime causes of poor indoor air quality. Ducts, Indoor Air Professionals, better known as Duct Busters, cleans HVAC systems using 127 definable Duct Busters steps. Let Mark Thompson address the indoor air quality at your business to help reduce employee illnesses. Prevent fires by cleaning your dryer vents. Mark and his parents, Dick and Joan Thompson, have been building our local economy and helping local people with HVAC systems 16 years. Ducts, Indoor Air Professionals. Call 876-9907. 876-9907. Ducts. Call now.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Fox News Radio, I'm Pat O'Neill at Arlington National Cemetery this Memorial Day. And President Obama laying a wreath at the Tomb of the Unknowns.
We honor the sacrifice of the thousands of American service members, men and women, who gave their lives since 9/11, including more than 2,200 American patriots who made the ultimate sacrifice in Afghanistan.
The president noting this is the first Memorial Day in 14 years without U.S. forces in a ground war. In central Texas, at least 12 missing, hundreds of homes damaged in severe storms, at least 3 deaths blamed on the storms. As for today,
a moderate risk has been issued across parts of Oklahoma and Texas by the Storm Prediction Center, as there's a chance for some tornadoes, damaging winds, and large hail today.
Fox meteorologist Maria Molina, a tornado in a Mexican town has left 10 dead. Fox News, we report, you decide.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nuganomics with David Toulis.
The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation has been making some arrests in what it calls a human trafficking crackdown. The story is at Chattanooga.com, and it says that there's been a partnership among the Brentwood, Tennessee Police Department, the Clarksville Police Department, and End Slavery Tennessee. And there were arrests made of men who were soliciting prostitution. And the director of the TBI, Mark Gwynn, says, "The time is now. Lives are at stake at this very moment. We will be the agency, and the state will to do everything possible to make a difference." And the goal is to save mostly women who are trapped in a sexual servitude. And so these arrests are part of what is kind of a sociological exploration involving 2 police departments and an organization, a nonprofit group, like the one here in Chattanooga, which is called Second Life, and that is run by a man, Jerry Redmond. He's a practicing Christian. It's a nonprofit charity. It's not a religious organization, but it has a similar goal to save women from the predator, the sexual predators, and the being passed around as so much meat. Well, my name is David Toulis, and our show is Nuganomics.com. You can hear us on your smartphone by getting the TuneIn Radio app. And just type in Hot News Talk Radio, and there we are on your smartphone. Even though you may pass beyond the reach of our powerful 1,000-watt transmitter in Saudi Daisy. We are the Saudi Daisy station, and we are here to serve you. And I do appreciate your giving me a few minutes of your time online, Hot News Talk Radio. Just dial that up. It's a website, and it plays immediately what we have going, and you can minimize that and do with the 97% of your cranial capacity other things that you might have going today. But if you're not at work and you're at home and maybe taking some time off, we do appreciate your giving us a few minutes of your time. I'm a classical liberal, and I think you are too, my listener. But you and I have a problem describing what a classical liberal is, and I think we need to start from the basic words. What is classical? What is liberal? And what is conservative? You probably identify me as a conservative, and I probably identify you the same way. But what is conservative? And to explore this question and others that arise out of the Federalist Papers and other founding documents of our republic here on Memorial Day is Greg Bialy. He is a street preacher and here in Chattanooga, and he can as readily enunciate the words of the Lord Jesus or the Apostle Paul as Montesquieu, perhaps, or something in Madison in Federalist 51. He's a member at Victory Baptist Church in Dayton. He's married and 44 years old, and he and his wife Holly have a daughter at home, Rachel. Greg, welcome to Nuganomics.com.
Well, thank you there, David Torres. I appreciate you letting me be on the show.
What's the difference between a liberal and a conservative?
All right. When I talk about liberal and conservative, what I mean to demonstrate is to make it practical from a fundamental principle. If you look into the area of finance, if you see you have someone that makes $30,000 a year, and if your outgo exceeds your income, your upkeep will be your downfall every time. So if you make $30,000 a year, you're trying to live on credit cards and you're trying to finance everything and put everything on credit, what took mom and dad 20, 30 years to make, and you're trying to make it overnight with plastic. You're living above your means, $40,000, $50,000 a year, but you're only making $30,000 a year. That would be a liberal. You're not putting any fixed, immutable standard in your lifestyle.
You're being very generous with yourself.
Yes, sir. And so the conservative, like me, would come along and say, sir, I know you might think this is none of my business, but you might want to be a little conservative on your spending, because if you don't, you're going to find yourself in bankruptcy. So, and I'll give an illustration. The last 35 years after Reaganomics, after Reagan was president, the last 30, 35 years after that, I think the national deficit was around $9 trillion. Well, since the last 7 years Obama's been in, did you know the national deficit has doubled to about 19 trillion? So that shows you the poison, the danger of liberalism in the finance world of finance, and the conservative element, which I would be as Republican. Republican means there's a fixed, immutable standard. There's a transcendent standard. There's a superior authority above you that keeps you in check, keeps you accountable to a fixed conservative standard. In liberalism, though, you think, and here's what Gouverneur Morris, the author of the U.S. Constitution, spoke on the floor 173 times, more than any founder. So he's definitely an authority on the Constitution, wrote the thing. Last man to sign the U.S. Constitution, Gouverneur Morris from Pennsylvania. He said democracy leads to licentiousness, in which the ignorant believe to be liberty. He's saying if you think that having no conservative restrictions on your lifestyle, whether it's physical, financial, or moral, or spiritual, he said you're ignorant and you call that liberty. That's not liberty. You're removing a moral structure, a moral standard, which causes you to violate finances. Like I said, it causes you to finance even in the physical realm. If you have someone that doesn't have a proper diet, you try as a conservative like me to say, hey, sir, you might need to add some protein, fiber in your diet. Protein is good for muscle, for bulk. It'll help keep you healthy. Well, the liberal will say, well, get out of my life, conservative. You hate speech. I don't like what you're saying. I mean, I ought to have the liberty to do what I want to do. So I'm going to eat like I want to. I love sugar-laden foods. So I'm going to gain 50 pounds and die at an early age. And the conservative is standing there saying, I told you to quit being liberal in your food and your diet. So liberalism says, I don't want any restraints. I don't want no restrictions. I don't want an immutable standard. And that's usually what democracy is about. And Gouverneur Morris said democracy is savage and wild. He said, thou who wouldst bring down the wise and virtuous to thy level of folly and guilt. So when they established our Constitution, Article 4, Section 4, Gouverneur Morris, he put in there, the U.S. government shall guarantee to every state in this union a republican form of government and to repel invasion. In other words, keep in leadership those that understand the principles of immutability, those that understand accountability.
The principles of what now?
the principles
of you said immutability,
right? No, the principles of immutability. That means a fixed standard.
Things don't change, right? They're immutable,
wrong, right? Things that are fixed, they don't change. And the founders definitely gave the source of that immutable standard, and that's the Bible. That's the Bible. That's what this Constitution was founded on, in a Republican form of government. I got here Dr. Benjamin Rush. I got 12 reasons we'll never take the Bible out of schools, but Dr. Benjamin Rush, signing the Declaration of Independence. After the Constitution was in place, he was the founding father of the public schools under the Constitution. And Benjamin Rush said we must have the Bible in schools. And he said this, quote, Benjamin Rush, the only means of establishing and perpetuating our free Republican forms of government is by the universal education of our youth by means of the Bible. That's what Benjamin Rush said.
And again, the idea of the founders was that there's a standard external to themselves. And so their argument was for, you might say, a classical liberal argument would be, we favor the marketplace. We disfavor cartels. We disfavor special licenses and people who have control of government by being big business, big money people. So a classical liberal idea is somewhat like conservative, though I think conservatism has shifted from its earlier moorings. It's not principled really anymore. It's very pragmatic, and it tends to favor the warfare state, whereas the liberal side, represented by Democrats, tend to favor the welfare state, in which there's license. There's really a great license on the part of the actors on both sides, in which there's no submission to law.
Right. Yes, sir. Something else I'd like to say in regarding to being conservative. If you look at, and I'm just going to be brief on these first three articles in the Constitution of the United States, and you can feel free to read them for yourselves. If you look at Article 1 deals with the Congress. Article 1 is 109 lines dealing with Congress and what they have the authority to do. Article 1, Section 1 says that the Congress, the legislature that should be vested in the United States, in the Congress, it said our legislative powers herein granted by the Congress of the United States shall be made of a Senate and a House of Representatives. So those two parts, the House of Representatives and Senate, make up the Congress. Article 1, Section 8 says they have the power to make all laws. So the only authority given in our Constitution was to Congress. Congress is the only branch that had the power to make all laws. So Article 2 dealt with the president. The executive has 47 lines. Article 3 has a mere 17 lines dealing with the judges. So 2/3 of Gouverneur Morris writing to those three branches, 1, 2, and 3, 2/3 of those lines deals with Congress, which proves that Congress was the branch that was to predominate. They were the branch that was given the power and the authority to make laws. So the executive cannot, according to the Constitution, make a law by himself. That's quoted in Federalist 47 by James Madison. James Madison says the oracle on whom we cite and consult on the separation of powers is the celebrated Montesquieu. Federalist 47, read it yourself. He said, we say what Montesquieu said in his book 1748, Spirit of Laws, and in Federalist 47, he said the judicial branch is necessarily next to nothing, and he said that the let's see, Federalist 47, judicial branch is next to nothing, and he went on to say in federal.
Well, I've got it here. He says, when, this may not be exactly the quote you're thinking of, Greg Bialy, but he says, when, this is Madison quoting Montesquieu, when the legislative and executive branches are united in the same person or body, Montesquieu says, there can be no liberty because apprehensions may arise lest the same monarch or Senate should enact tyrannical laws to execute them
in a tyrannical manner.
And then there's another one.
Also he says
what's his point? In a nutshell, what's his point?
He's saying that the executive cannot of himself make a law. And also he says if the judicial were joined with the legislator, you cannot preserve liberty. He says,
and why not?
Because the judiciary then becomes the legislator. Now you got the judges making law. You got judges making law. So the Supreme Court or any other federal judge within the United States of America, under Article 3, if you look, they never had the authority to make laws.
Well, if the High Court is expected to rule in June, Greg Bialy, that marriage is either in the providence of the states or that marriage is something that it controls and that it can define. And if it does that, it will say that there is a right of two gay men to marry. Is that not, though, just an opinion and just a judicial statement and not a law?
Right. That is definitely an opinion of the court. And what they've done is, like I illustrated when I start with being conservative, being liberal, what the court has done is they have decided to be national lawmakers. They've become policymakers. And if you look at Article 3, Section 1, the Constitution says that they're not there for life. They're there in good behavior. They can actually be removed on impeachment by the Congress, by 2/3 of the Senate. 2/3 of the Senate can make a vote, remove judges who violate our Constitution. Federalist 51, James Madison also quotes and says the same thing. He says they're there in the duration of good behavior. So good behavior is there to uphold the Constitution. Judge James Iredell, one of the original Supreme Court justices, he says impeachment is a tool in the hands of the legislature to keep judges to uphold the Constitution. He said there might be a judge, a man of no value, no virtue whatsoever. He might be ready to deviate from his duty. He said hopefully impeachment is a tribunal in the hands of the legislature to keep the judge accountable to the Constitution.
And the impeachment proceeding, it does not emanate from someone like my listener. It has to emanate from someone in public office or the body of the federal legislature.
Exactly, and that was my point in Article 1, where 109 lines are dealing with the Congress. The Congress, again, Article 1, Section 1, Article 1, Section 8, given us by Noah Webster, the Congress was the only one that had the power to make all laws. The executive cannot of himself make a law, Federalist 47. And also, like I said, the judges cannot make law by themselves, because once again, Federalist 47, if the judicial is joined with the legislator, he says that the liberty, the general liberty of the people will be exposed to arbitrary control. Why? Because the judge becomes the legislator. Arbitrary control means no fixed standard.
Yeah, he goes on to say, this is Madison quoting Montesquieu in Federalist 49 or 47, where the power of judging joined with the legislative, the life and liberty of the subject, that would be you, my listener, would be exposed to arbitrary control. For the judge would then be the legislator, as Greg Bailey is saying. Were it joined to the executive power, the judge might behave with all the violence of an oppressor.
Exactly.
So, well, how come the founders are so suspicious of mankind, Greg Bailey? Why, when they gave us a Republican form of government that we, in some respects, we remember here on Memorial Day, why were they so suspicious of human nature? What was their hang up, their problem?
Okay, the number one fundamental premise on separation of powers that was given by Montesquieu, as James Madison said, he said the number one oracle that we cite on separation of powers is Charles Montesquieu. He was the number one political philosopher that was quoted. George Washington, we all know George Washington, he said this, because of that, he said this, a just estimate of that love of power in which predominates the human heart and man's proneness to abuse that power is sufficient enough to satisfy us for the need of reciprocal checks and balances in government. Alexander Hamilton said the same thing. He said, why has government been instituted at all? He says, because the passions of men will not conform to the dictates of reason and justice without constraint. So they said, and they use that with Jeremiah 17:9. Jeremiah 17:9 says, the heart's desperately wicked, deceitful above all things, who can know it? So they said, I can't trust myself in political leadership. George Washington said, I can't even trust Alexander Hamilton in leadership. I can't trust you. You can't trust me. We must have a separation of powers, keep these powers separate to preserve liberty. He said, if you don't do that, the fundamental principles of freedom is subverted.
We'll say something about the use of ambition. Ambition, my listener sometimes thinks is a bad thing. When we say someone is rising in the world and he's ambitious, we're sort of criticizing him. But really, ambition even in the pro-central government Federalist Papers is viewed with favor. How's that?
Ambition is viewed with favor. Well, in Federalist 51, again, ambition must be made to counteract ambition.
Meaning what?
Meaning, well, it depends on what your ambition is. If your ambition is for, like I say, according to the founders, it's conservative, you want to keep people in check. See, our government was set with delegated authority. There was a limit on the government. Even on Congress, they had the power to make laws. If they made laws that violated state laws, they violated, like state law in Tennessee, all powers inherited in the people. All free governments are founded on their authority. What that means is, in a democratic republic, if there's something in state law, and the federal constitution, the 7 articles, doesn't give the Congress the right to change a law that's a state law that was put there by the people, then even the Congress, the ones that have the power to make laws, they cannot let their ambition change our state laws. Our ambition has a check on the federal government, and we have the right to check their ambition and make sure it's constitutional.
I'm holding in my hand the blue book. Now, it's not blue from the man watching our show on his smartphone. It's actually purple. It comes out from Trey Hargett, the Secretary of State. And I'm holding open Article 1, where I've got some things underlined. And in the Tennessee Constitution, Greg Bialy, we're referred to as a free people.
Right.
And the expression also is used further back in the addenda, free government. That just sounds so strange. What is the idea of free government? We all think that government is tyrannical and burdensome and taxing us and somehow unreasonable and inescapable, but that's not what the term means, is it?
No, sir. Free government founded on the people, man, once again, we elect representatives to represent us in the national legislature. We elect our congressmen. They are to go to Congress on behalf of the people. That's delegated authority. That limits them to not rule over us with a tyrannical manner as by usurpation and by a dictatorship. The founders were coming out of Europe where there had been dictatorships. There had been King George III, who was acting tyrannical laws on them, Grievance 17, taxation without representation. He was forcing them to be an Anglican. Even in Virginia, there were jailing Baptists in Virginia who didn't believe the Episcopalian doctrine of King George. Thomas Jefferson, an anti-federalist, Patrick Henry, an attorney, they actually helped get the Baptists out of jail. And that's where you get the 1786 statute, Virginia. Thomas Jefferson, and he even declared 1798, he said, no power over the freedom of religion is delegated to the United States by the Constitution. He said, the matters of religion, I consider its free exercise as separated by the Constitution from the powers of the general federal government.
So we're a free, my listener is a member of a free people, and he has a free government insofar as he understands his rights and insofar as the government respects those rights and operates outside of their reach. In other words, the government does have authority, and that authority is excised from the people. It's excised in a measure from their rights because it has to operate with force upon the malefactors in society. So there's some rights are restricted somewhat by the operation of courts and police and officers and things of that kind. So but my listener is a member of under free government, and he is a member of a free people if each side understands his place. And so the listener has to really understand that he has to exercise his rights to be a member of a free people, and to keep government free, he has to exercise his rights as against lawless use of power against him.
And that's the approach to the Declaration of Independence, what called us forth from Great Britain. Thomas Jefferson, quoting John Locke, I got his book on here, 3 times in page 150, he said 125, excuse me, he says 3 times that to have free government and not to be subverted, it has to be by the consent of the governed. And that's what Jefferson put in the Declaration of Independence. He says governments are instituted among the powers he said governments are instituted, he said, by the consent of the governed. So Jefferson was quoting John Locke, the third most political source in the founding era. And so if you don't do it without consent of the governed, then you don't have unalienable rights, which is also the Declaration. We have inalienable rights, meaning they're God-given, therefore the government can't take them from us. And in the ratifying conventions from 1780, after the Federalist Papers, 1788, 1789, all the way to 91, you have Virginia, North Carolina, New York. These states would not even ratify the Constitution without a Bill of Rights. They said, unless you give us a check, a separation of powers in state government and what they got and what their authority is and what federal authority is, unless you give us that check and that Bill of Rights, we will not join with you in the national legislature. Also, they reserve the right, 10th Amendment, that which belongs to the states. That's not delegated to the general federal government. We reserve the right for state nullification. Even as Mike Huckabee proposed, he's exactly right. George Washington said, I never would have put my name to a constitution if I thought it would have violated state rights. So they even told the states that you have the right to remain an indigenous superior state, an indigenous state. That's state sovereignty right to abide by your laws if you want to. But in order to form a more perfect union, the states decided to ratify the Constitution, but not without a Bill of Rights. So anything in the Bill of Rights is rights.
Well, there's something I want you, my listener, to ratify, and that is a new form of medical service. It's called Quick Surge here in Chattanooga. Dr. David Redd is a surgeon, and he has a walk-in clinic. It's cash only. Now, this is a counter-revolution against the revolution, if you will, of insurance and government taking over that relationship between patient and doctor. Quick Surge is on North Shore in the Public Shopping Center. And you walk in, all the prices are published online at quicksurge.com. You know exactly what he can do: cuts, moles, skin tags, things like that, lacerations. And he will, you fill out this very quick form, and you can have surgery right then. And a couple $100 might be all you're paying, though. If you were having it paid for by insurance, there'd be a 2-month wait or longer. It might not be covered. And the price might be $700 or $1,200 for some minor thing that Dr. Red can take care of in a flash. So consider the alternatives in medicine, the free market alternatives, the local economy alternatives. Quicksurge.com. That's QuickSurg.com online. This is David Toulis. We're talking with Greg Bialy. Greg, are Americans giving their consent to too many things today? Are we consenting too much and yielding too much?
Yes, we're just like the gay rights. I want to touch on that real quick, because I hear that gay rights, the founding fathers were for gay rights. Well, that's not true. In 1778, George Washington had a man court-martialed for attempted sodomy in the army. In biblical natural law and republic government, George Washington and the founders used Leviticus 18:22, man shall not lie with mankind as with womankind is abomination. They should surely be put to death, or blood should be upon them. Even New York state law, where Alexander Hamilton was, they said in New York, any man that should be convicted of sodomy, the detestable, abominable vice of sodomy shall henceforth be adjudged a felony. He or she that should be convicted thereof should be hung by the neck till he or she should be dead. So, and Jude 7 tells us they're suffering the vengeance of eternal fire. That's from Sodom and Gomorrah in Genesis 19. So that agenda, they're trying to force that down our throat, and their rebellious actions is definitely evident, because even in democracy, the state majorities have said no, and they're still trying to force it upon us. So that consent of the government is definitely against republic. It's against democracy. It's leading to a tyrannical usurpation, a seizure of power that George Washington warned against.
Well, buggery certainly is an unnatural act, and it makes a man unfit. Though I would say, Greg Bialy, you're a street preacher. Is buggery a sin that can be forgiven?
Yes, sir, and that's my prayer for anyone. So I don't care who you are out there, whatever kind of background you have. Hey, Jesus Christ came to save sinners from their sin. That includes me, David Toulis, my listener. Jesus loves the world. He died for the world. God sent his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. But sodomite or anyone else, you'll spend eternity in hell in the lake of fire if you do not repent and trust Jesus Christ. That's the Christian message. It's your choice to make.
And some sins are that's a capital offense, no doubt. But there's some sins which are hard to get away from, like hypocrisy and pride and things like that. Well, this is David Toulis. Our show is Nuganomics.com. We're exploring government, civil government, and the Constitution. Hang on.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Don't worry, just relax. You need a car. Come to Automax.
My wife and I keep the cost down. We sell a quality vehicle at a great price. Our overhead is low. I have no employees, so I can keep my costs down. In turn, the consumer gets a better price. Everything that I sell is emission ready. We really try to go the extra mile for our customer. I don't have to pay an employee commission. I don't have to pay somebody to come out here and wash my cars. I do it all, from buying to selling, from A to Z. I don't have the overhead where I have to raise the price on my vehicle to cover costs. Here at Automax, you're going to guarantee that you get credit. As long as you're making those payments, you're going to build on your credit. Unlike the buy here, pay here's where they don't report to credit bureaus, we report to all 3 credit bureaus. The subprime lenders that we deal with, you don't have to have any credit, or you can have bad credit. You can even have a bankruptcy, a repossession.
Don't worry, just relax. You need a car. Come to Automax.
Right now, you can save half off at hotnewstalkradio.com. Go to hotnewstalkradio.com and click half off for exceptional deals on new and pre-owned unique quality items for Hamilton County residents only. Save half off at Jet's Pizza, golf clubs, coffee, tea, a real sword, jewelry, and much more. It's half off. Go to half off at hotnewstalkradio.com right now, then click on half off to save big. Be sure to join us live Wednesday, Thursdays, and Fridays at 11 a.m. as we bring you lots of fantastic deals right here. AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. HotNewsTalkRadio.com and half
Surgery
off.
does not have to be financially painful. Hi, I'm Surgical Dr. David Red, and I'd like to invite you to my walk-in surgery clinic in North Shore. Quick Surge brings you immediate relief from moles, skin tags, maybe a laceration. Quick Surge. You walk in, fill out a mini form, I numb the area I'll treat, and before you know it, you're on your way home. Do I take insurance? No, because I take cash customers. I have super low and fixed prices. Credit card, check, or cash. Uninsured? Member of the working financially disadvantaged? Choose Quick Surge. I publish prices online. No murk, just sunshine. Hassle-free, pain-free. Love the idea of a personal relationship with a doctor? Drop in with a nasty cut from work. Quick Surge, I'll take care of you. Quick Surge in the Public Center on the North Shore. No insurance hassles with Quick Surge. The national medical system is dysfunctional, overpriced, very alienating. I'm part of the solution, and so are you. Come on home. Quicksurge.com. QUIKSURG. Relief.
When my brother and I opened our first Jets Pizza, we believed if we made the best pizza, customers would find us. So we made fresh dough each day, used fresh toppings, and premium mozzarella cheese. 300 plus stores later, we still do.
Try Jet's famous 8-corner pizza with premium mozzarella cheese and one topping, now just $11.99 for a limited time only. Jet's Pizza, the best pizza in town. 3600 Hickson Pike.
Life is short. Eat better pizza.
Let's get Jets.
Okay, you get your taxes done by a franchise, but you're just a number. Your preparer might have had a 9-week course, but he's a number 2. Are you creating prosperity for your customers and yourself? E.J. Pelton clears the thick underbrush of taxes, helps make your way straight. Don't let uncertainty dampen your local economy spirit. Look, come home. Let E.J. Pelton Tax Service handle your taxes. Eric Pelton is the Chattanooga and Saudi Daisy tax specialist with 37 years under his belt. Eric Pelton also does bookkeeping and accounting to help you reach your entrepreneurial and financial goals. Confidential advice, consulting, and other services. Yours for the asking. EJPelton.com. That's EJPelton.com. Call 332-3339. That's 332-30-30-30-30-30-30-33-39. Think ahead.
Here comes Dale Earnhardt Jr. He's got third. He's going for second. Earnhardt going for the lead.
The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series is on the Motor Racing Network. Coverage continues Sunday here at Live on the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
NASCAR being brought to you by River City Auto Exchange, 5503 Highway 153 in Hickson.
Check it out this Sunday live on Chattanooga's official NASCAR radio station.
Hot News Talk 1240.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
WSDT Saudi Daisy, Chattanooga.
CBS News. I'm Harley Carnes. Memorial Day at the top always includes a ceremony at Arlington National Cemetery.
The president began his tribute to fallen service members by laying a wreath at the Tomb of the Unknowns. Speaking to the thousands gathered in the Memorial Amphitheater, he said the nation will never stop trying to repay the debt it owes those who gave their lives.
The Americans who rest beneath these beautiful hills and in sacred ground across our country and around the world, they are why our nation endures.
He noted that it's the first Memorial Day in 14 years that the U.S. was not engaged in a major ground war. Pam Coulter, CBS News, the White House.
U.S. fighter jets joined on the wings of an Air France airliner on its way to JFK Airport in New York from Paris. There had been a threat that a chemical weapon was on the plane. WCBS Radio's Jim Smith.
Passengers say they were not able to see those fighter jets off in the distance. They didn't even know anything was amiss coming in. They said it was pretty much a normal flight, a normal landing, and the only indication that something was going to be different was when they saw the emergency vehicles surrounding the plane.
Plane's been given the all clear, no weapon found on it. In the wake of the fall of Ramadi in Iraq, Senate Armed Services Committee Chairman John McCain says thousands of U.S. troops ought to go back. CBS News military consultant Mike Lyons.
You need the types of soldiers that can assist with the planning, perhaps special operators, actually logisticians that can help to make sure that equipment is getting to the right place at the right time.
U.S. military officials said this weekend Iraq's military essentially turned Ramadi over to ISIS. Just across from Del Rio, Texas, in Acuna, Mexico, a tornado ripped a child from a woman's grasp and threw the baby. No one yet knows where. 10 people died in that twister. Hundreds of buildings are reported damaged. In Texas and Oklahoma, 3 people are dead after a huge flash flood of the Blanco River between Austin and San Antonio. It destroyed 350 to 400 homes. Emergency Management Coordinator in San Marcos, Texas, Ken Bell.
This isn't a deal where we're just using local resources, using state, some federal assets that the state's requested to make this happen.
Texas governor has declared an emergency in 24 counties. The severe weather, not done yet, says Kevin Enlow. emergency director in Pittsburgh County, Oklahoma.
We do have more rain that is starting to fall right now. So we have more rain through today and tomorrow that we're going to have to deal with.
A bounce house, not the place to be when a water spout appears and slides over toward the land, which happened in Fort Lauderdale. Several children were injured when the water twister picked up the bounce house and tossed it onto a basketball court. Only one of the children bouncing around inside was seriously hurt. 3 others had minor injuries. This is CBS News.
It's Thursday night, and you're grabbing drinks with some friends. Started off with a pitcher for the table, which quickly becomes 2. There's pool. And there's the photo booth.
All right, everybody squeeze in. Say cheese.
Followed naturally by an order of wings. And another.
Can we get some extra ranch sauce?
Then there's the ceremonial nightcap.
So what are we doing this weekend?
And lastly, it's back to the car, which, if you're buzzed, could be the most expensive night of your life. Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Memorial Day barbecues have become a lot more expensive with such high food inflation.
Time to add a little sizzle by kicking off the summer barbecue season. What are folks throwing on the grill?
Ribs, Italian sausage, chicken, pork chops,
Chicken, ribs, steaks. Beef prices, however, are up 14% over this time last year. That's thanks to drought that's driven up prices the last several years. Is it keeping folks from buying beef?
No, I still put the steak on the grill, medium rare.
Dave Cohen for CBS News, New Orleans.
The city of Wichita is back in Portage Township, Ohio. The city of Wichita is a 5 ATB Ford trimotor airplane from 1929, part of the Liberty Aviation Museum, and just back from getting 3 new engines, rebalanced propellers, and a general spit shine. In the early 30s, Ford trimotors were top flight for airlines. Harley Cards, CBS.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nooganomics with David Toulis.
Bill Buckley, the staunch Roman Catholic, is moldering in the grave, of course, but his managing editor at National Review, Jason Lee Stewart, a few days ago, it came out with an equal chance at love, why we should recognize same-sex marriage. The conservative bastion National Review has gone over to the other side, gone over to the bright side, where the rainbow flag flows. And you know, it's doing so with a bit of humor, I think. When God looks down on the gay flag, what he's doing is saying, well, they're flying my colors down there, because the gay flag, you have to remember, borrows from a promise God made to mankind after the cataclysm, the flood, and it's the rainbow. And the promise was that you are sinners, but I will never judge you all in the same with the same cataclysm as I did all the earth except for Noah and his 3 sons and their 4 wives. And so in the rainbow, there's a picture of judgment, and there's also a picture of grace. And we are talking with Greg Bialia, minister and a street preacher from Victory Baptist Church in Dayton, and wanted to mention bringing up these points, that there's this humorous grace picture that the gay lobby, the lug butts, as I call them, the poofter activists wave over their demonstrations in front of the federal high court and elsewhere, and it's a claim of God upon mankind, and they can't escape it. They can't escape the biblical paradigm. Well, there's a story out of just briefly out of the 10th Amendment Center about the Alabama Senate, which a few days ago passed a bill that gets the state government out of marriage, especially the licensing of marriage. A very favorable development. My name is David Toulis, and I'm a backer of common law marriage. I almost married at common law, but my sweetheart and I had made pastoral arrangements, and I couldn't back out at the last minute without causing an uproar in her among her family members. So I just went ahead and got an Alabama marriage license out of Huntsville. And the bill in Alabama allows for there to be a recording of marriages and no longer a licensing. And it's important to understand the difference between a record and a license. A license is permission to do something which is otherwise illegal or a wrong or an error. Licenses, you don't need a license to marry. You have a right to marry. You're my listener. It's a common law right. It's a right because you are a human being that has constitutional rights recognized by the law, and you don't have to ask permission of anyone except perhaps the girl's dad. I want to mention also that we're members of Trade Bank of Chattanooga, the smarter way to barter in the Chattanooga area. And the man to talk to is Jürgen Mutz, the German with the southern twang. He'd love to explain to you the benefits to you and your little business of Trade Bank of Chattanooga. The number is 877-2202, 877-2202. And if you're having trouble keeping accounts and you need some help with cash flow in your business, don't forget to call Eric Pelton. Eric Pelton, EJ Pelton Company, is the numbers guy. And call him at 622-3156. That's 622-3156, ejpelton.com. A CPA that helps you keep more of what you've earned in your pocket. Greg Bialy is a street preacher, and he describes himself quite modestly as a Sunday school teacher in Victory Baptist Church. He's a married man, 44 years old, wearing a very bright blue shirt, and from his pocket is a book, Benjamin Rush's booklet about the Bible, 12 Reasons Why the Bible Should Always Remain in the Public School.
That's exactly right.
Benjamin Rush, one of the founders. Yes. Greg is married, his wife Holly, and he's the father of 3, and his Rachel, his daughter, is still at home. Well, Greg, we're trying to get our minds around the idea of free government and a free people, constitutional government, which restrains the use of force, restrains the use of lawless power.
Right.
How are we doing? How's our country doing on this question of the restraint of power by other power, by conflicting power?
Well, sadly, we're doing terrible. And the reason, I think you just look at the evidence and it'll explain itself, starting at the head leader in our country, Barack Hussein Obama. I mean, when you make a national health care program, you can't find in any of the 7 articles of the Constitution. Ask your governor, ask your senator, ask Lamar Alexander, ask Bob Corker, is this constitutional to make national health care and make everybody comply to it, or is that national socialism? Obama, has even admitted, if he was to hold with Israel or with the Muslims, he would hold with the Muslims. He's a Muslim, and he's against Judeo-Christian ethic in America. He's against the fundamentals of this nation. He's against biblical Christianity. He's a murderer. 1.5 million babies aborted in America every year. That's not restricting legislative powers or executive powers. And once again, our government has no right to murder the unborn. They have no right to declare marriage as a man and woman null and void and make it 2 men. They're violating article after article. The only one, like I said, the president and the justices have no right to make a law whatsoever. Congress makes the laws, the president executes the laws, and the judges are to uphold the laws. And they'll be consistent with state laws and with the Constitution.
Well, the founders who gave us the Constitution had among their compatriots, opponents of the Constitution, who feared concentration of power. They feared what one Federalist referred. The Federalist Papers were written in favor of the Constitution's approval. One of the Federalist Papers refers to a tyrannical concentration. So those papers were written to defend the idea of a centralized power and address the objections to the anti-federalists. You could say the free marketers, you might say the local economy position.
Right.
Talk about this tyrannical concentration. What is the problem with concentration? Doesn't concentration bring efficiency, Greg Bialy?
Well, the problem with it is, once again, you have a branch of government of 9 unelected justices, the Supreme Court, that are not directly accountable to the people. We did not vote them in. They've been appointed by the president to sit on the judicial bench, and they're unelected officials, the bureaucrats. They're taking our rights, they're taking our moral rights, they're taking our civil rights, and they're making laws and enforcing them in a tyrannical manner. And it's self-evident. You take every state that votes on certain things, as much as back to creation science in schools, as much as stop letting them burn our flag. If they don't like America, go live in a Muslim nation. See if you get liberty there, my friend. They're taking away, like I said, abortion. They're forcing this. Roe v. Wade, 1973, a Supreme Court, 1962, Engel Vital. They kicked prayer out of the schools in Pennsylvania, a 22-word simple prayer. When they called on Almighty God, the children simply prayed in New York, God bless our teachers, bless our parents, bless us, and bless our nation. And they called that unconstitutional to pray in school. The U.S. Supreme Court did that. They have no right. That was usurpation of powers. That was a violation of the First Amendment, the freedom of speech, the freedom of religion. They are not forcing the national religion of Lutheran, Presbyterian, Episcopalian, but now what they're forcing is atheistic evolution. That is the basis for no morality. That's the basis for kicking the Bible out of schools in 1963 in Abingdon versus Shemp. While Mr. Shemp's daughter, Donna, was reading the Quran in the Pennsylvania school. They won't tell you that. So they got the right to read the Quran, which says kill the infidel. That would be me. I don't believe all is God. But yet you can't have no Christianity in the school structure. That is tyranny. And it's been here since the 60s. Earl Warren was the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. And he said we are under a constitution with Charles Evans Hughes, died in 1948. They said we are under a constitution, but the constitution is what the judges say it is. That's a quote. The judges said we're not going to be set on fixed standards any longer. So they took away Montesquieu. They took away the separation of powers. They're usurping states' rights, individual rights, and they're forcing legislation on us. One more proof is the Fourth Amendment in the Bill of Rights. It says that the government cannot search and seize your property. They cannot come into your home without due process of law. They have to go to a judge to get a search warrant. Well, under the Patriot Act, did you know federal agents can now write their own search warrants? That's a violation of the Fourth Amendment. Where does the Constitution tell our government, even Congress can't do that? Where does it tell them they can violate the Fourth Amendment to our Bill of Rights, our constitutions, to come in with a search warrant in the name of protecting us from terrorism, and to come in and have a search and seizure of anything they consider to be against their agenda?
Well, Greg Bialy, what does the Christian Church teach about my listeners' submission or activism under this tyrannical concentration that seems to be concentrated in several branches? It seems to be concentrated in the national power, but also in the state power. What is the Christian's answer to these things? What is agenda is he supposed to have?
As a law-abiding citizen, as a Christian, what I try to do is what I'm doing right now. I think the best thing to do is try to be peaceful, try to be consistent on getting to the general public these truths. Get familiar with your Constitution. If you don't know what your constitutional rights are, you don't know when they've been violated, and you don't know when you can stand up against that. We need to quit this political correctness garbage and say they can take the political correctness and they can keep it up there in Washington. They can move to Canada if they want to, where they have the Bill C-38 that's been passed up there, where if you say that marriage is a man and a woman, or you take an adopted child that's been adopted by sodomites that molest that child cannot find out who its biological natural parents are without being persecuted by the state. It's offensive to them to say marriage is a man and a woman. So in Canada, and there's a man there, Bill Cothram was arrested last year, 2014, I believe it was March, for handing out distributing pamphlets like I do on the streets against homosexual marriage. What about his rights? We hear this claim by the sodomite agenda, equal rights. Well, if they're equal rights, then why don't you practice your rights in your own home? Why do you want to adopt children, commit incest, polygamy, just like Justice Alito alluded to the lesbian attorney back in April? He said, well, man, you're not asking me to just give you rights. You're asking me to promote polygamy. You're asking me to promote incest. You're asking me to promote what's next. Are you going to marry your cow? There's no stop when the moral standard, the fixed immutable standard, is dropped. So there's no moral accountability whatsoever. People need to understand that it's not just they want equal rights. No, they don't. They want to take over, and that's what they've done in Canada since 2005, when the government of there said that marriage is a man and a man. The person like me, conservative, cannot come back and say, no, I believe it's a man and a woman, which I should have a rights to do. So if it's equal rights, we should both say, well, no, I believe this, and you have the right to believe like you do. That's your right. And I cannot force my belief on you, and you should not be able to force your belief on me. That is tyranny.
Well, the constitutional amendment that favors marriage is called the Tennessee Marriage Protection Act, has some language in it that's pretty striking. It says any policy or law or, now here's the highlighted part, judicial interpretation purporting to define marriage as anything other than the historical institution and so on between one man and one woman is contrary to the public policy of the state and shall be void and unenforceable in Tennessee. Is it possible, Greg Bialy, that county clerks across our state can take that definition of the Constitution, that definition in the Constitution, and say, no, I will not honor a high court opinion that lets Jim and Joe marry as a matter of constitutional right? Is there some way that men of principle, men of honor who have taken an oath of office can stand on the language that they swore to uphold?
There is a way, yes. Number one, by their oath of office. John Adams, the second president of the United States, John Adams said, oaths in this country are esteemed by the General Assembly, that's the legislature, as a solemn appeal to God. He says, if we don't have a firm belief that there's a power above us that will reward our virtues and punish our vices, he said, if we don't believe that, if we don't have a firm belief in that, that will reward our virtues and punish our vices, he says, then that would be destructive because there will be no accountability, nothing to keep you in check. That's the same thing goes back to separation of powers. When you swear oath in office, you're swearing to God. Think about a courtroom. Even people that don't even believe like I do. I don't want nothing to do with the Bible. I don't want Christianity. Okay, that's your right, sir, ma'am. But when you go in the office, when you go into a courtroom, you have to swear on the Word of God. Even the president is to swear on what? The Word of God. Why? Because you're swearing, your oath is binding that there is a God above you who you're accountable to that will reward your virtue or punish with wrath your vice. If you lie under oath, what will bind your conscience to be obedient to that oath is you understand in your private life when nobody else is looking that there is a supreme God above you that sees you and knows what you're doing in your private life, and that'll keep you accountable to that oath.
So the interposition that you're proposing, the intervention even by people such as Bill Knowles, our county clerk here in Hamilton County, is one based on law. It's based on an oath, enforcement of that law by God through the oath that man makes in public.
That's
before
That's right.
Before the members of the public who voted for him and even people who didn't vote for him, he swears to uphold the law in their presence and for their benefit. And the thing that he swears to uphold is every word of the Constitution, and that would include this statement in the marriage amendment that says that a judicial interpretation that's contrary to the law is void, exactly and unenforceable. So what we have here is we have built into our legal structure a means of resistance, a means of saying, well, you, the Yankee court, effectively can go to hell.
Keep a check. Check on that balance. That's exactly right. You have no right to and that violates the First Amendment, by the way.
What do you mean?
The First Amendment, Congress shall make no law regarding the establishment of religion. Now, people say, well, you Christians are religion, and I don't believe in God, so I'm not religious. Yes, you are. Religion is a belief system held to with ardor and faith. That's the different definition of Webster 1828. I really encourage you to read my tract I just wrote on my website, defendersofourheritage.com. I just wrote a tract called...
Give that website again.
Defendersofourheritage.com. I wrote a tract called Is Evolution the Gospel? And I will illustrate to you that both positions, whether you believe in God or you don't, they're both religious beliefs. You believe one or the other. You either believe you evolved 20 billion years ago by Big Bang, or you believe that God created you around 6,000 years ago, as the Bible Christian believes. So both of them are beliefs. They're both religious. So when you violate marriage, the Supreme Court is violating the Bill of Rights because they're taking away my belief that I believe marriage is a man and a woman. They're usurping my moral obligation and my accountability to God, and God's over that Constitution. And also Article 6. They're accountable to Article 6. The Constitution is the supreme law of the land, not the judges. They cannot violate the Constitution. One more thing, Article 5. Article 5 says Congress whenever 2/3 of both houses shall deem it necessary, shall propose amendments to this Constitution, or an application of 2/3 of the legislatures of the several states. Judges cannot make a change, only Congress and the legislature of the several states, and that on 2/3. So on that point, we're Democratic because it's a majority vote, but it's a majority vote that doesn't violate Republican principles, a fixed standard. So in Republic, marriage ain't even up for vote. In a republic, it's a man and a woman. In democracy, you can vote on it. But even in democracy, Article 5 in the Constitution says it's to be the Congress that makes an amendment. It's to be the state legislatures representing we the people that make the change, not unelected justices that won't overturn our biblical values.
I think it's easy to say that we have in our day too much faith in paper.
Right.
We understand that a Constitution makes demarcations in parchment, but a Constitution is really more than just something that's written, Greg Bialy. It's something that lives.
Right.
How does a Constitution live among the people? How do its liberties that are protected, how does it live among commoners and among people in office?
Well, if you just take the Constitution, you stick it over there and put it in the corner. Thomas Jefferson said this. He said it'll be taken into the hands of the judiciary based on Federalist 47. If the judicial is joined with the legislature, he says you can't preserve liberty. James Madison quoted Montesquieu. Thomas Jefferson agreed with him. He says if you set it over there in the corner, it just becomes a ball of wax, which the judiciary would twist and shape into any form they want it to be. And he said that will lead us to what's called an oligarchy. An oligarchy is the rule of a nation by a few elite council. We got a few people, 9 unelected justices, telling the whole nation what our rights are going to be in all of our states. That's not republic. That's not even democratic. That is a tyranny. So Jefferson and James Madison both, if you join the judicial with the legislature, you can't preserve liberty because the judge then becomes the legislature. Judicial lawmakers, judicial policy making. That is never original intent. That is never constitutional intent. The founders were adamant against that. They never were for that. They voted against that even in the ratifying conventions. And Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, George Washington, John Jay, original Supreme Court Justice, Alexander Hamilton, U.S. Constitutional signer from New York, author of Federalist Papers, Gouverneur Morris, penning the U.S. Constitution, they all disagreed with violating the separation of powers.
So the fact we have 3 branches is not a trivial detail from civics class in the 9th grade. We have three branches, and again, what are they, Greg Bialy?
You have the executive branch, that's the president. You only have 47 lines in Article 2 dealing with him. You have the judicial branch, that's the Supreme Court, and that is only 17 lines dealing with Article 3. And by the way, they can be impeached. They're there on good behavior. They're not there for life. That is a lie. And the impeachment is to keep them accountable. That's the whole reason for impeachment. 6 clauses of impeachment in our Constitution. And then Article 1, 109 lines, deals with the Congress. Article 1, if the judges or the president try to do anything that Article 1 designates only for Congress, they are usurping their authority. They are to be removed by the Congress.
Well, Greg Bialy, thank you for joining my listener and me here at Nuganomics.com and explaining this whole idea of competing ambitions among the branches of government and the need to have a clear rule. And we're living in a day when there's much disregard for the rule of law, though it is often said to us that, hey, we need to follow the rule of law. There seems to be a great deal of anarchy among those who are party to national government. Thanks again.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Dave.
Give your website again.
It's defendersofourheritage.com.
Defendersofourheritage.com. Greg Bialy is a Sunday school teacher at Victory Baptist Church in Dayton and a street preacher, often vociferously defending gospel truths among folks on sidewalks here and afar. This is David Toulis. Our show is Nuganomics.com. We cover local economy and the free market. Make sure you check AutoMax for a car that you need that's $2,000 less than any other place in Chattanooga.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. If you have the DT, the shakes, because your phone is on the fritz, you have nomophobia. You need help. Your telecom doctor is in. Cell Surgeon at Northgate Mall. Cell Surgeon yanks open the ribcage of your phone, pries out the dead heart, and puts in the beating life that you lead on your cell phone. Broken screen, phone not charging, water damage, battery given out? Cell Surgeon at Northgate Mall next Old Chicago Pizza. Check us out on Facebook. Open Sunday. Cell Surgeon. We bring your phone back to life.
We've got a table here at Delia's in Saudi Daisy, ready to delight in a plate of authentic Mexican food. Delia's spreads a rich selection: loaded nachos, crazy chicken, homemade tamales, maybe the enchiladas with beef, chicken, pork, quesadillas. Every dish beautifully pictured on the menu to help us decide. Join us for lunch or dinner. We're at Delia's in Saudi Daisy on Dayton Pike near the Thrasher Light. Here's dinner. Delia's uses the freshest ingredients, cooked to perfection. Nachos, homemade. Delia's open every day except the Lord's Day. For lunch and dinner, treat yourself to Delia's genuine Mexican food. In Saudi, call 521-7145. That's 521-7145.
Are you tired of working in corporate America, or have you recently lost your job and would like to consider owning your own business? If you are, please call me, as I can help you look at franchises or business opportunities that fit you, the economy that we're in, and the type of businesses that are right in the greater Chattanooga area. After I help my clients find the right opportunity, I also help them find the best way to finance the business, including paying yourself through the startup phase. If you would like to learn more about opportunities that may be right for you, please call me for a free assessment. My name is Bruce Krebs at the Entrepreneur Source. Phone number is 423-875-5621.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
You do not have to be living with constant pain. You need to make the choice today to enjoy a revitalized body. You deserve to live a better pain-free life. And Dr. Ross can help. At Ross Chiropractic, failure is not an option. For over 40 years, Dr. Ross, a graduate of the prestigious Palmer College of Chiropractic, prided himself in helping and healing. The Ross method of chiropractic care is unique in developing a treatment designed just for you. And Ross Chiropractic makes this promise to you. If he believes that he can't help relieve your pain, he will guide you to another health practitioner to assist you. Feel better now. You owe it to yourself. You really do. Call Dr. Ross now at 954-9591. That's 954-9591. And visit Dr. Ross at 7405 Shallowford Road, Suite 320. Ross Chiropractic, helping your body heal itself. Because when your spine's in line, you will feel fine. Call 954-9591. That's 954-9591 for Ross Chiropractic.
Do you feel better outside your home or business than in? Indoor air quality is important. Mildew, mold, smoke, water, and rodent damage are prime causes of poor indoor air quality. Ducts, Indoor Air Professionals, better known as Duct Busters, cleans HVAC systems using 127 definable Duct Busters steps. Let Mark Thompson address the indoor air quality at your business to help reduce employee illnesses. Prevent fires by cleaning your dryer vents. Mark and his parents, Dick and Joan Thompson, have been building our local economy and helping local people with HVAC systems 16 years. Ducts, Indoor Air Professionals. Call 876-9907. 876-9907. Ducks. Call now.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Fox News Radio, I'm Pat O'Neill. President Obama this Memorial Day paying tribute to those of the armed forces who have served our country and made the ultimate sacrifice.
The Americans who rest beneath these beautiful hills and in sacred ground across our country and around the world, they are why our nation endures.
The president addressing thousands at Arlington National Cemetery. Flood conditions remain in parts of Texas and Oklahoma. In central Texas, a dozen people are missing. Carly Smith of Hayes County Emergency Management warning people not to conduct searches on their own.
I want to remind the public that we do have resources that are designated to those activities. We have local resources, regional and state assets that are actively doing search and rescues. It is not safe for the general public. 3
deaths have been blamed on the storms and more bad weather forecast in many areas today. Fox News, we report, you decide.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nooganomics with David Toulis.
Last week, 62% of those voting in Ireland favored gay marriage. And in Tennessee, about a decade ago or so, Tennesseans voted to favor marriage. And the vote was 81%, 1.4 million votes for yes to amend the Constitution in favor of marriage. It was the Amendment 1 of 2006, and a mere 18%, or 300,000 or so, favoring the poofter concept of marriage, the redefinition, you might say the deconstruction of marriage. The gays are delighted. They're exuberant. They have won an entire nation, and apparently the first national plebiscite for poofter unions as marriage in this great process of deconstruction. They're happy. They believe in votes. They believe in the democratic process. They're celebrating today and getting it on today. What about the democratic process in Tennessee? What about the democratic process in 29 other states that have definitions of marriage that were passed by plebiscite, by a vote of the people? Are not these adequate? Is that not right and fair that people can have a different opinion, that they might vote overwhelmingly, as they did in California and Alabama, Georgia, and Tennessee, for marriage, right? I don't say traditional marriage, I just say for marriage, because there is no such thing as traditional marriage. If you put that adjective in front of the noun, you have already ceded ground. Don't, I suggest, cede ground. You are, my listener, favoring marriage. You favor marriage as you favor capital, as you favor the prospect of new industry, new ownership, new entrepreneurship, new family members, new people from faraway places here in Chattanooga. The Irish are going to be or have promised themselves a disaster. They're taking up some of the fin de siècle thinking, the wildlife that marked the first part of the 20th century in Europe, and in which there was a great deal of promiscuity, of liberality, you might say, of liberalism. And they are going to reap the consequences of confusion, where law is rewritten to confuse, not to set a landmark as to what is what and whose is whose, but to confuse the people and to widen the field of marriage, right? So to improve marriage, that Jim and Joe are now married, just like down the hallway there in the apartment complex, Phyllis and Samuel, the husband and wife with their children. They're the young couple, the two men. They're the same, legally the same, and no one can criticize the other. But of course, we know that one party will certainly mount an offensive criticizing the other, and that will be down past the banister there. The gays will start sniffing out opposition. Will start sniffing out the fact that Samuel and Phyllis, the couple, use the wrong vocabulary to describe marriage. They're teaching their children the wrong thing. They're teaching the children that men should marry women, and that women should bear children and keep the home and rear the family, as the man is the provider and defender. The traditional Christian theory of marital union and capitalism will certainly come under assault, and that's what we know is going to happen. It is promised, it is presaged in the news from around the country, from Canada and from other places where gay theory has predominated. And it is going to be a kind of pogrom. It will last, I would say it will last, if the gay ruling wins in the federal court, it will be understood to be a law. Of course, it's not a law at all. It is absolutely an opinion. And insofar as state actors in Tennessee and elsewhere pretend that it's a law that binds upon them, pretends to absolve these officials from their oaths of office, we are going to have a very difficult time with persecutions and prosecutions and a great deal of rising hatred among people who should be able to live pacifically together in a city without having to have flaming rhetoric and noisy confrontations and petitions and placards over seas of heads in protest. Those are the things that come when you have imposition from alien jurisdictions about what is true and what is right and what we're going to do here in Chattanooga. Is that agenda going to be set in Washington by 9 black-robed jurists who pretend to issue opinions that are laws? Or is it going to be decided here at the local level, here at the state level? And gays they believe in democratic processes when it goes in their favor, but when it doesn't go in their favor, well, we're going to have to get the Yankee court to side with us and to change things around to make it so that all are treated equally and fairly. If you're a customer at Affordable Computers, you are not treated equally. You're treated better than anybody else. Okay, at Affordable, you will have your computer repair done in-house. A very lococentric theory. We don't believe in sending things away. We take care of them here in either of our 2 stores at Affordable Computer. On Highway 58, one branch is between the Arby's and the Taco Bell, and Fort O on Battlefield Parkway near the Holcombs. And Affordable Computers will fix your clogged machine and maybe upgrade it if you need that. It'll also sell you a used, or should I say refurbished, name brand laptop of various kinds, Dell, for example. There's quick turnaround times on computers. If you want to buy a new computer, have Affordable make it for you custom built. If you get past any device beyond $600 or so, it's going to be cheaper to buy it at Affordable than a big box store that's kind of prefab. And that's because it uses standardized parts and can save you all the extra software and junk that's loaded onto store-bought computers. Try Affordable Computers. The number is 499-1975. That's 499-1975. And if you have separately an air pollution problem in your building, let me just suggest you get Ducts, the indoor professionals, to take care of you. Ducts, formerly known as Duct Busters, will clean the mold and the mildew out of your duct work. It'll find the lost Lego pieces of your son's army kit, and no, they won't be kept. They'll be just vacuumed away. And also the body parts of spiders and the droppings of rodents will all be removed, and you'll have cleaner air in your office or home. 876-9907 is the number, 876-9907, and have your house done, and you'll get a free cleaning out, a tidying up of your dryer vent, which is a fire hazard, right? Fire hazards, your alarm bell should go off as you hear that. You've not thought about that vent in a long time. It's probably caked with lint and could ignite tomorrow when your oldest daughter does her load of laundry and runs the dryer. Well, my name is David Toulis, and our show is Nukenomics.com. It's Memorial Day, and there is a regular celebration about the loss of life and the idea of war, foreign wars. Is there a local economy position on wars? Does local economy have an argument about Memorial Day? And it's an argument that it might take a minute or two to go through, but my thinking is that local economy does not like foreign interventions. It doesn't like state interventions in the marketplace, A, and B, when the state exercises its power not in the economy, but in the economy of strangers, right? When it drops bombs, levels cities, creates turbulence, and creates hordes of refugees in other countries such as Iraq or Afghanistan, we know that there's a problem. We know that the idea of the modern state is a problem per se. And yet, Memorial Day helps people overlook you might say, the religion of the state, the religion in which the state is a kind of a deity and whose faults we overlook, whose greed, whose covetousness, whose duplicity we simply ignore. Because lying there in the grass in front of that tombstone in the National Cemetery is one's husband or one's brother or an uncle who gave his life for freedom, gave the ultimate sacrifice, we're told, for our country, for freedom. And we have to understand that we don't want to. I don't want to avoid the nuances here that make you think that I'm not sympathetic with you, my listener, right? If you, my listener, have a dead or slain man who's killed in a war, I'm not saying that I can't empathize with you and that you're mistaken somehow to have a kind of bobbing Adam's apple as you think about that person now that you're remembering him again today, and you're planning on going by the National Cemetery and looking at his grave with your children and your wife who had not met this man. But here you are, you're going to go and do that. I'm not disparaging or discountenancing that at all, or saying, well, we believe in local economy and therefore all the federal debt should be left to themselves and to people's memories. Well, no. On the other hand, the idea of intervention is something that is alive and well, and we're seeing in federal interventions disaster and disaster. I have a son who's just left for the Marines. He's been at Parris Island, South Carolina, for about 10 days or so, 2 weeks. And I'm tempted, like you, to say, well, I've got a stake in national power. I've got a stake in the success of our military ventures. Well, we can mourn the loss of life in alien parts, and realizing that when soldiers look at Alvin York, when Alvin York was in Europe and had his great heroics against the German unit with his Springfield rifle and his 45, which he emptied his 7+1 into onrushing Germans, felling the last one, the first one last, and he fell right in front of him. He shot the men rushing at him, the last ones first, so that they wouldn't realize what was happening. Well, he became a much bigger man than he was. He had been a Tennessee farm hill man with his hill family and hill ways, but he became kind of an international person on account of this war. Wars make men bigger than they were born, right? That takes them out of their culture, their time, and introduces them to new ways of living, new ways of thinking and speaking. A man becomes international when he becomes a soldier, and we are here in Chattanooga, many of us, international people. And I mean more than just cosmopolites, right? More than just city people, more than just people of broad learning and perspective. I would say I'm somewhat of a cosmopolite. I'm not an agrarian like I'd like to be, right? I'm not the person I'm trying to become, but I'm trying to become an agrarian. I'm trying to become a Southerner. I'm trying to become a genuine localist. It's an effort that I have, which has many things built into my experience and my past and my person that I have to work against, right? To be a localist, to be a Nooga-centrist, I have to overcome my internationalism. And war makes people international. It makes people think that, it makes people view government, it makes people view their states, their homes, their past from a bird's eye view, which they wouldn't have had if they hadn't gone overseas to fight. And war internationalizes our viewpoint. It makes us take a national perspective on the news. It makes us take a national perspective on stories out of Iraq, ISIS. These are all amazing developments that we take great interest in, and we take interest in them not because we are suspicious of national government, because we are national government. This is us, right? We are fighting ISIS. We are there. And these are our interests. These are our people, and we have a kind of uprooted perspective. And my thinking is, how can I get back? How can I escape that perspective and take on naturally, rhythmically, and genuinely and morally perspective of a local person, where I'm lococentric, where somehow I think that Chattanooga, my hometown, your hometown, is the center of the world. How do we take that perspective and not do so foolishly, right? How do we do that? Men become, when soldiers become, they become liberal, right? They become understanding of other ways, other folk ways, other mores, other ways of living. And in a way, you can say that that's a good thing. And yet we have to realize that many of the soldiers who are dead, whose memories we recall, were lost in wars that had false beginnings, false flag operations, as they're called. The Gulf of Tonkin was a false flag operation. World War II, we got into that with Roosevelt was itching to get into World War II. I recently heard the Folsoms, Dr. and Mrs. Folsom's history about the American economy during the Roosevelt war years. He wanted a war. He wanted to centralize power in Washington. He wanted unitary government. And the war was an essential element of that. He wanted to be involved in a war, and Pearl Harbor was, in a way, a blessing, so that we could righteously declare war on Japan and on Germany a few days later. 9/11 has all the markings of a false flag operation. Just look at the various elements, the many inexplicable things. Ask yourself one question to have this doubt firmly in your mind. Why did World Trade Center 7 collapse as if in a demolition? Why did that building, which was a 47-story tower, fall when it had just a few fires inside, fires that were never capable of bringing down the entire structure? Well, Tyler Durden, writing at zerohedge.com, suggests that even ISIS is a creature of national government, a creature of people who have way too much time on their hands, way too little restraint of money on their doings, that ISIS is a creation of the American internationalist establishment, necessary to deconstruct yet another country, that one being Syria. What did we do for Libya? Well, we brought chaos into Libya. What about Syria? Well, we are in Syria as well, and ISIS is our proxy, some are suggesting. Well, the death of the people we mourn and remember ennobles the cause in which they died, whether it was World War II, Vietnam, or either of the Mideast wars in which we have been entangled. Their death, as we think of them today on Memorial Day, ennobles the cause, because somehow they were innocent, right? They were heroic, and they were innocent of anything. Some volunteered, some were drafted. What happens, I think, on Memorial Day is that we civilians, as we're called, inject a civilian rationale, a civilian meaning into what very likely was a pointless and meaningless death of that soldier. His bones are left, if even that, under the tombstone, in a surrounding field of other glittering tombstones, some of which are adorned with flowers, and some have federal flags on them if the Boy Scouts and the Trail Life USA people got to them. Their deaths are given a meaning that were not part of their original demise. They were killed in a pointless accident, right? In a stupid command from a sergeant who was drinking, or a sergeant who wasn't paying attention, or a corporal, or not a corporal, but maybe a commander who really wasn't doing his job. And this man, before our feet here as we stand in the grass, is a victim of folly. He's a victim of hubris, of pride. He's a victim of effectively a kind of religion, the religion of the welfare warfare state, which a very noted writer, Carlton Hayes, writing in 1926, calls nationalism as religion. Nationalism is the thing that divides people. Nationalism says, I'm right, my country's right, and I'm going to come and take your country from you, and I'm going to have my way with you and your country because I'm stronger than you. That's nationalism, and it is here's a man who's lying in the ground dead, and we're giving his death meaning. We're giving him a heroic status, and we are retroactively interpreting his demise and trying to find meaning in it. And I understand that it's a perfectly human thing to do. In all the dead, we have this sense of heroism, and it's implied. If you look at Facebook, you look at news media, it's implied in parade dress. It's implied in the very straight honor guard handing a folded American flag to a boy with a tear in his eye. His lip is curled as if he's about to weep, and he's getting an honor for his father, who was killed by an IED in Afghanistan. And there's heroism implied in pictures like that, in pictures of women weeping, prostrate on grass in front of a tomb. And so every soldier is a hero. Every draftee is a hero. Every volunteer in the Army is a hero. And I understand that we like that thing. We like to do that, and I share it. I'm not beyond sharing in this emotion that people have, but we have to realize that we are still being deceived. Local economy, the free market, is being deceived by these demonstrations of piety, of care, of concern, of deeply being the state of being deeply moved by the loss of soldiers who died in mass, who died without being counted, as it were. Though there is accounting for most people who were inducted into the military, served, and were shot down. Nationalism, Carlton Hayes says, as a religion, represents a reaction against historic Christianity, against the universal mission of Christ. It re-enshrines the earlier tribal mission of a chosen people. And of course, if we're American, we're chosen, right? We're a chosen people. We have the conservatives, the neocons telling us about American exceptionalism. I've got here at my radio station, I've got Sean Hannity making that argument. I've got Laura Ingraham, who both believe as conservatives in the American exceptionalist theory. Nationalism as a religion inculcates neither charity nor justice. It is proud, not humble. And it signally fails to universalize human aims. It repudiates the revolutionary message of St. Paul and proclaims anew the primitive doctrine that there shall be Jew and Greek, only that now there shall be Jew and Greek more quintessentially than ever. And he goes on to say, nationalism's kingdom is frankly of this world, and its attainment involves tribal selfishness and vainglory, a particularly ignorant and tyrannical intolerance and war. Nationalism brings not peace, but the sword. This is a quote I have in, if you go to Nuganomics.com and you want to read a little bit more about this writer, I have a moment's reflection at my website, Nuganomics.com. I'm the editor of this fine website. I am a journalist. My name is David Toulis, and we are facing, because we are an invader, we are a busybody country. Our government doesn't know when to stop and is paying for everything on credit. Nothing is being paid for. Everything is on credit, and there is a gigantic debt past 100, maybe a couple $100 trillion of obligations that government has created upon the world and upon its citizens. And somehow you think you're going to be paying it off. Well, you're not going to ever pay that off. There is a debt that's going to be unpaid, and the national government is responsible for it. But it doesn't care. It doesn't care a whit for you. It doesn't care a whit for your loss. It doesn't care a whit for anybody in this city, Chattanooga, Hamilton County, or any other place. If you're just traveling through our city, the federal government doesn't care a whit for you. It has tromped on your rights. It has destroyed the national ideal. It has created a conflict between the United States and between America. I'm in America, and I think probably you, my listener, are in America as well. And that's what you love, and that's your ideal. And okay, it's nationalism. Okay, fine. But the United States is something different. There is a war between the United States and America. And what we have to do is understand America, its greatness and its fine points and its glories, if you will, but understand also its limitations. And the limitations I would temper with two things: Christianity, and the idea of belonging to a certain place at a certain time among a certain group of people, some of whom are not your friends, right? And that's local economy. Local economy here in Hamilton County and Chattanooga, Tennessee. My name is David Toulis, and I'm the man who defends local economy. You could say I'm the guru of local economy. This is David Toulis. Thanks for giving me a minute of your time.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.